Surprise! I'm back. Last week, by the way, this is Cellar Chats here at the Second Glass. My name is Chris. We're hanging out. It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And last week I had mentioned that we weren't doing flights. I was mistaken. We are doing flights this week because, well, why wouldn't we? Flights are fun. Why would we not do them? This week we are heading off to one of the many places that I love quite dearly in the world of wine, but specifically one of probably the most lauded region of Italy, and definitely a region that I think about even more as we go into this time of the year. I'm, of course, talking about the Piedmont. Doing a fun little red-only Piedmont flight for this week. Starting out with a delicious little Barbera di from Pico Maccario. Then we're going to roll into a fun little Langhe Rosso from Cascina Dimela. And then we're going to finish with the ever-lovely Francesco Rinaldi Nebbiolo di. So, really fun lineup. So a little bit, why, I guess the question would be, A, why these wines this week? It is Thanksgiving. You think, like last week, we did, Beaujolais flight. Makes sense for Thanksgiving. This week, we're rolling into the festive season. We're rolling into the holidays. It theoretically should be getting colder, although it's a little warm this morning. Not too bad, though. And so why would we talk about Piedmont? Well, for me, Piedmont just screams wintertime. Everything about the wines, the food, the place makes sense for this time of the year. They tend to be celebratory, and I don't know about you guys, but I just have truffles on the brain. Not chocolate truffles. I'm talking truffles like the mushroom that you put over top of pasta. And what goes better with truffles than wines from Piedmont? I'm not entirely sure. But that being said, there's also a lot of great value to be had in this region. For instance, Barbera. One of my personal favorite grapes. I think that it just totally gets overlooked all too often. It gives you so much. It's red fruited, it's fresh, it's lively. It's got good structure, it's got good complexity. It can actually age for quite a long time, and they tend to not be crazy expensive. So for, having holiday parties or just get-togethers with some friends and you want something delicious to drink, but you want it to feel kind of wintry, and maybe you're making some fresh pasta, maybe you're making a stew, maybe you're coming in here and having an amazing meal, which, it's hard to do when you come in here to not have an amazing meal. So Barbera does all the things that you want it to do, and typically, it just gets overlooked. I think that's my biggest point, is it gets overlooked and it makes me sad. People need to pay more attention to Barbera. Let's get into this. Pico Maccario, this is their Villa della Rosa, Barbera di. So this comes from Piedmont as a whole. Is not a huge region, but it's a vast region. And then you have two primary regions that really dictate, that kind of separate it. You've got Alba and Asti, basically between the towns of Alba and Asti. Asti, typically speaking, is a little lighter and fresher. Alba is a little darker and richer. In Alba, you typically are going to be finding that's where Barolo is, things of that nature. You just have a little more high tones. The soils are a little bit lighter and more airy in Asti, so you get a little more high acid, a little more, again, more freshness. Oh, so good. Red fruits, dried herbs, a little bit of earth, some spice. I think one of the big deterrents for Italian wine for a lot of people is that they tend to be a little bit more bitter, and they tend to have a decent amount of tannins, which I think as Americans we sort of struggle with. I've talked about this before. It's not a quality that we're used to, but Barbera kind of like bridges that gap. It's not so dusty, it's not so tannic. It's got really beautiful bright red fruits, which is a great segue. Like if you love Pinot Noirs, particularly earthier Pinot Noirs that are not so rich and heavy, good Burgundies, like Bourgogne Rouges. I'm not going to compare Barbera di to, like a Gevrey Chambertin. But if you like that red fruited, kind of mushroomy, savory thing, Barbera is the way to go. And this wine is spectacular and a great way to start out this flight. All right, again, that was Pico Maccario their Barbera di Asti, Villa della Rosa. Really pretty, like, kind of peppery notes on the back end. I like that a lot. Kind of want, like, some, like, maybe like a pork ragu or something with that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just hungry. It is midday. Reminder, second glass will be closed tomorrow night. They're open tonight, and then they'll be back open on Friday, and you can come in and get these. So you can come in tonight, grab a flight, grab some bites. If you want to maybe avoid the family that's all just arrived, or bring the family with you. That's cool too. Please do. And then on Friday, you're out doing your Black Friday shopping. Maybe you're just having a good old time and you need a way to wind down instead of going back home and eating the leftovers, which you're sort of excited about, but sort of not excited about how much you have left over, and you just ate ridiculous amounts of food on Thursday. Come in on Friday. Have the flights, get a few bites, take it easy, settle, and enjoy yourselves. All right, moving into the next wine. This is Cascina Dimela. This is their Langhe Rosso. So 50-50 blend of Barbera and Nebbiolo, which is pretty fun because the first wine, 100% Barbera, the last wine, 100% Nebbiolo, and then the wine in the middle, a blend of the two. So Langhe Rosso is the Rosso category in Piedmont is a little less talked about. For whatever reason, at least when I was kind of learning about wine and coming up in wine, I didn't really hear a lot about blends coming out of the Piedmont region. It was always like, oh, you have a Dolcetto. Well, it's all Dolcetto. And you have a Barbera. It's all Barbera. And, God forbid you blend Nebbiolo with anything because, it's the king of grapes in Italy. It's, Barolo and Barbaresco are some of the greatest wines in the world. Why would you blend it with anything? But that being said, I found so much pleasure in Langhe Rossos. I'm glad that the category has not necessarily like taken off. I think it's always been made, but I'm glad that people are more open to it and that they're out there and available. I do apologize if you hear me like kind of like a little bit of a lisp. I had a tooth removed last week and I am going through the process of having an implant put in, so I'm going without a tooth for a while and it's making it a little difficult to talk. My wife says that you can't hear it. I can hear it, so it bugs me. So a little more spice, a little more dark fruited, which is what I would expect. Nebbiolo is one of those kind of chameleon grapes. It's very light in color. Whenever you have 100% Nebbiolo, and we'll look at it here. I mean, this has got a good little like ruby translucent color, a little bit of brickish on the ends, but not too brickish colored. And what I mean by like kind of, let's see if I can see it there. Yeah, you can see just a little bit of tinge of orange around the edges there. And that's a classic Nebbiolo trait, but Barbera is a little darker, a little more red fruited color on the skin, so you get more of an in-depth color profile. Oh, God, I love Piedmont. Going from the Barbera, this still has plenty of freshness, acidity, red fruit, but you can feel where that Nebbiolo kind of picks up the grip. There's a little more tannic structure. There's a little bit more of a floral, kind of earthy, truffly mushroom lift that really just gives the wine a little bit more complexity, a little more depth, without being like over the top. Nebbiolo can, again, talking about it's one of the greatest grapes, one of the greatest wines in the world is made from Nebbiolo, but they can't be finicky. It can be extremely tannic. It can take years to really develop, and it can be almost very subdued when you first open a bottle of like a Barolo or a Barbaresco, where you're just sort of like, I don't really know if I understand this. There's not a lot of fruit going on. I don't know what's going on. And then it looks really light in color, and then you take a sip, and you're like, wow, these tannins are aggressive. I don't know how people drink this wine, which is a fair thing to say. When you do a blend like this with Nebbiolo and Barbera, that Barbera brings so much freshness and it makes it so drinkable and enjoyable young, which is the whole point of Langhe Rossos, is to sort of have a little more complex, a little darker, more structured body than just Barbera can give you, but in a form that is drinkable upon release or much earlier. Oh, so good. Again, that is Cascina Dimela, their Langhe Rosso, what they call their Parin. All right, moving on to Francesco, Rinaldi, and Figli. Really great producer, long history in this region. This is their Nebbiolo della. So you can make Nebbiolo Langhe, which the Langhe is a much larger region. Nebbiolo della is a little smaller, like DOC region. And then there's also, I think there's Nebbiolo d'Asti. Don't quote me on that. Or you could just make just straight Nebbiolo, which is typically Langhe Nebbiolo, but it you can source fruit from outside of the Langhe region, which just is within the Piedmont. So this comes from, if I remember correctly, mostly Barolo vineyards. So sort of like declassified Barolo would be one way of somebody putting it. I think that does a disservice to Barolo into this wine. I think it is an excellent wine. So again, let's have a look at that color like I was saying. So again, a lot of like good red tones, but you can kind of see towards the edge, although there's, you know, a little bit of bubbles from the aeration of the wine being poured. Hopefully people don't find this super annoying, but you can see it's a lot more orangish tinged in color. And this is, I mean, this is a pretty vibrant, pretty well-colored Nebbiolo. Again, it's very young. This is a 2019, so that's about as young as you're going to find Nebbiolo. At least good quality Nebbiolo. You might find some a little younger, but not a lot of it. Oh, wow. I mean, immediately on the nose, it is way more earthy, very truffly. I mean, this just reminds me of like truffle risotto, a little bit of mushroom, you know, again, some of those high tone like red fruit, but very subtle red fruits. Wow, this is so pretty in the glass. Some violets, a little bit of rose petal. Oh, wow. Sorry, that wine is truly exceptional. The tannins are there, the freshness is there, the earthiness is there. There's still a lot of fruit for such a young Nebbiolo. And the Francesco, the Rinaldi family, they make this wine. It's meant to be consumed young. So it's done in a fresher style with some younger vine fruit, which tends to lend itself to having more fruit characteristics, making it really approachable young. But this is just like a screaming value of what the Piedmont and like the Nebbiolo grape can do in so many ways. Like, again, Barolo and Barbaresco obviously are considered super lauded and they're amazing, but they need time. They need the right situation. This is a wine that I would drink any night of the week with just about any foods. It is so, so good. So let's wrap it up. We'll keep it short and sweet this week. Again, it's a holiday week, so Pico Maccario, this is their Barbera d'Asti that's starting out the flight this week here at Second Glass. Rolling into Cascina Dimela, their Langhe Rosso, that's a 50-50 blend Nebbiolo Barbera. And then ending with the very beautiful Francesco Rinaldi Nebbiolo della. Be safe out there. Have an amazing Thanksgiving. Again, you need to get away from the family. Come out here tonight, grab some flights, grab some bites, or maybe you just want to get the family out of the house. Take them, bring them all here. Come have a good time. Have some cool wines, some different foods, and then be ready to go tomorrow. Second Glass is closed tomorrow, and then Black Friday on Friday. Go shopping, do your thing, come in, grab some more flights, grab some bites. Be safe. Have a good one. See you next week.